Hey beautiful, have you considered subscribing to our channel? Help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers.
The sun poured golden light over the quiet cul-de-sac, casting long shadows from the row of identical pastel-colored houses. Sprinklers hissed rhythmically from distant lawns, and the air was filled with the scent of freshly cut grass, sunscreen, and the high-pitched laughter of children. Lena leaned against her porch railing, a glass of iced tea sweating in her hand. It was one of those rare, perfect afternoons. Summer had just begun, and the neighborhood kids were free from school, bouncing with energy and joy. Her 7-year-old son, Milo, darted across the common green space with his friends, their sneakers, pounding the soft grass as they chased a neon-orange ball. Their shouts and giggles rang out like music. She smiled. For once, things felt peaceful. Then the shrill screech of a hose nozzle turning on shattered the moment. Across the street, from behind a white hydrangea bush, emerged Karen Mallory, short, stiff, and perpetually squinting as if the world were too bright for her taste. Karen stood on her immaculate lawn with a garden hose coiled around her arm like a serpent. Her eyes locked onto the children with a scowl so sharp it could have sliced through concrete. "Off the grass!" she shrieked. The kids froze mid-game. Milo looked toward his mother, confused, his hands still clutching the ball. Karen stormed forward, her flip-flops slapping against the pavement. "You little delinquents think this is a park? This is private HOA property. You're trespassing." Before Lena could set her glass down, a blast of cold water shot out from the hose, arching, across the grass and hitting Milo square in the chest. He yelped, stumbling backward, the ball slipping from his hands. One of the younger girls tripped and fell, her ponytail sticking to her face as she burst into tears. Lena was already running. "Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?" she shouted, fury pulsing through her voice. Karen didn't stop. She twisted the nozzle to a higher pressure and swept the spray across the group like she was hosing down animals at the zoo. The kids scattered, some slipping, others running toward their homes with soaked shirts clinging to their backs. Lena reached her son, who stood shivering and stunned, his cheeks blotchy from both the cold and embarrassment. She pulled him close. "You okay?" she whispered. He nodded silently, jaw clenched. Lena turned to Karen, whose smug expression made Lena's blood boil. "You assaulted children with a hose. Do you even hear yourself?" Lena snapped, stepping forward. Karen didn't flinch. "I'm enforcing the rules. That grass is HOA maintained. Kids trample it all the time. Their parents clearly don't teach them boundaries. They were playing on a shared green." Karen raised a condescending brow. "Read your bylaws. That area is restricted to passive use only. Walking, sitting, not roughhousing. And if you're going to live here, you might want to learn how things work." Lena stared at her, mouth open in disbelief. "You attacked my kid with water. He's 7. Karen gave a dismissive shrug. "Better soaked than sued." That night, Lena sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open and her jaw clenched tight, enough to hurt. She had dried Milo off, made him hot chocolate, and promised him everything was fine. But it wasn't. She was furious. Not just because Karen had humiliated her son, but because of how smug and untouchable the woman had seemed. She navigated to the HOA portal and logged a formal complaint, detailing everything: time, location, witnesses. She attached a statement and requested a review by the HOA board. 2 days passed. Then the response came. After reviewing the situation and speaking with Ms. Mallory, the HOA has determined that no violation occurred. Homeowners are permitted to use personal hoses on their property. We remind you to supervise your children when they are near shared HOA spaces. Thank you. No violation? Karen had sprayed children. Fuming, Lena headed straight to the HOA office. The next morning. It was a beige, windowless little structure tucked between a dry cleaner and a dentist's office. Staffed by an overly cheerful receptionist and a president named Harold Schuster, a man who wore golf polos year-round and smelled like aftershave and self-importance. "Karen Mallory is a close friend of the board," he told her, smiling with the smugness of someone who didn't need to pretend to care. "She's very active in our community. You have to understand, she's just passionate about maintaining order. She's passionate about spraying 7-year-olds like they're weeds," Lena snapped. Schuster chuckled as if she were joking. "Emotions run high when rules aren't followed, and unfortunately, our cameras on that side of the street haven't been working for a few weeks now." Convenient. Lena's complaint was filed and then promptly buried. When she posted in the neighborhood Facebook group about the incident, she kept it factual, calm, no caps, no rants, just the truth. But Karen was already there. "Oh dear. Sounds like someone's letting their emotions get the best of them. The children weren't harmed, and I was merely protecting the community's landscaping investments. Let's all remember to be respectful neighbors." The comment racked up likes, mostly from the same people who waved to Karen during their morning walks. Lena stared at her screen, heart thudding with frustration. Her post was being framed as hysterical, overblown. Karen had turned her into the angry mom trope with a single emoji. But it wasn't just about her anymore. Later that evening, as she folded laundry and Milo watched cartoons in the other room, she caught sight of a post someone else had made. An elderly woman named Ruth, saying she once got fined $200 for hanging wind chimes too loudly. Someone else chimed in about being warned for planting non-approved flowers. The stories kept piling up in the comments like a growing wall of quiet rage. Karen wasn't just a problem. She was the problem. And Lena, soaked in anger and absolutely done being ignored, realized something. She was going to take Karen down, not with screaming, not with threats, but with proof. And this time, Karen wouldn't see it coming. Lena spent the next few days simmering in frustration, each hour filled with quiet determination. Karen's smugness had settled into her mind like an unwanted itch. Lena couldn't stop replaying the image of her son's wet, shocked face. The humiliation, the helplessness. It gnawed at her. The HOA was supposed to be a body that maintained order, not a tool for someone like Karen to flex her power. But it was clear now. Karen wasn't just an overzealous neighbor. She was a queen in her own little kingdom, and she wielded her influence like a sledgehammer. Karen had a seat at the HOA table, and she used it to bully anyone who dared to disrupt her vision of a pristine, conformist community. And yet, as Lena pondered it, something inside her snapped. She had spent too much of her life bending to systems, of power. Too many years hiding in silence as others walked all over her. But she wasn't hiding anymore. Not this time. Karen's reign was about to end, and Lena would be the one to bring it down. The first step was research. After Milo went to bed, Lena sat in the dim glow of her laptop, furiously scrolling through pages of HOA bylaws and city ordinances. She learned that Karen's precious HOA rules had some glaring flaws. Rules that couldn't just be twisted or ignored without consequence. As a board member, Karen was legally required to follow certain protocols, and those rules didn't give her the right to terrorize anyone. Lena also found some surprising loopholes in local harassment laws. If she played her cards right, Lena could turn this into a legal fight Karen couldn't brush off. But first, Lena needed backup. She couldn't take on Karen alone. The next morning, as the sun crept above the horizon, Lena took a deep breath and walked across the street to Mr. Campos's house. The elderly man was a retired cop, someone who had seen his share of neighborhood squabbles. Over the years, Karen had made his life miserable over the smallest infractions. The story was always the same. Karen had a problem, and Mr. Campos would pay the price for it, whether he was in the right or not. He answered the door with his usual stoic expression, wearing a tattered Yankees cap and a faded t-shirt. His eyebrows arched when he saw Lena standing there, but she didn't wait for him to speak. "I need your help," she said, voice steady. "It's about Karen." His eyes hardened, the years of dealing with Karen's nonsense flashing across his face. "I figured this was coming. What do you need?" Lena leaned in slightly, her voice low. "I've got footage of her spraying the kids. But I need you to pull some of your old dash cam footage, from when she harassed you about the tricycle on your porch." Mr. Campos eyed her for a moment, chewing on his lip, before he nodded. "All right, but this isn't going to be easy. Karen doesn't just let things slide. She's got people in her pocket." "I don't care. I'm done letting her get away with it," Lena said, her words sharp as glass. "This time, it's her turn to get caught." That afternoon, they worked together in his garage, scanning through months of old footage. The grainy dash cam footage from Mr. Campos's old cruiser was a gold mine. There was Karen, loud as ever, marching up his driveway and waving her hands like she was conducting an orchestra. The audio was faint, but the aggression in her voice was unmistakable. She was demanding he remove a child's toy from his porch, citing some arbitrary HOA rule about clutter. "Got it," Mr. Campos said, pausing the video. "She's a piece of work, all right." Lena felt a rush of excitement. This was her ammunition, but it wasn't enough. They needed to hit Karen where it hurt. It wasn't just about proving she'd been cruel to Milo and the other kids. It was about showing everyone exactly what kind of person she really was. Lena wasn't just going to fight Karen. She was going to expose her. That evening, Lena started drafting her post for the neighborhood Facebook group. She kept it professional, short, clean, and to the point, but the underlying message was clear. She wasn't backing down. Her post went up at 9:30 p.m., and by the time she put her phone down and went to bed, it had already gained a few comments. Most were neutral or supportive, but some were directly aimed at Karen. The familiar, friendly faces of her neighbors weighed in with, "Karen wouldn't do that," and "maybe you're misunderstanding the situation." But the kicker? The dashcam footage. Lena uploaded a short, carefully edited clip of the children running across the grass, followed by Karen opening the hose and spraying them down. The sound of the water was sharp and harsh, cutting through the footage like a slap. Then came the audio, Karen's voice dripping with entitlement. "Stay off my grass!" The kids scattered, and the camera caught Milo, soaked and stunned, his lip trembling. The post didn't wait long to catch fire. Within hours, it had gone from a local issue to a viral spectacle. The neighborhood group was alive with comments, some sympathetic, some incredulous. But the memes? They were ruthless. Someone posted a photoshopped picture of Karen as a fire hydrant, and another had a video of a dog being sprayed down with the caption, "Karen HOA Enforcer." The internet was merciless, and Lena let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Karen's response came the next morning. She posted a scathing, thinly veiled insult in the comments section. "While I can't condone the actions of the local drama queen, I suggest we focus on fixing actual neighborhood issues, like noise complaints and the fact that some residents still haven't mowed their lawns. Maybe some of us should remember to act like adults." It didn't work. If anything, it made Karen look even worse. Her attempt at turning the tables only backfired. But it wasn't just the community group that was buzzing. News vans began to circle the neighborhood. It was only a matter of time before someone with a bigger platform picked it up, and that was exactly what happened when a viral TikTok user shared the footage with millions of viewers. Sprinkler Karen was born. The web of humiliation had been spun. Lena watched it all unfold, and for the first time she felt like she was in control. She wasn't just a mother protecting her son. She was the force that would bring Karen down, one humiliating step at a time. The media storm exploded faster than Lena had anticipated. Within days, Karen Mallory was a household name, or rather a viral sensation. Everywhere Lena went, she could hear whispers, see the snickers, feel the eyes darting away as soon as she walked into a room. The neighborhood, once peaceful, had turned into a war zone of divided opinions and raging comment threads. People who had once smiled and waved at Karen now avoided her, murmuring behind their hands. Lena was a quiet hero in this small-scale revolution, her once muted voice now amplified by thousands of strangers who felt the injustice of what had happened. But Karen, she wasn't just going to take this lying down. The first sign that the situation was escalating came 2 days after the video went viral. Lena was sitting at her kitchen table, scrolling through the endless string of notifications, when a knock at the door shattered the silence. She opened it to find a towering figure in a crisp suit and shiny shoes, someone who clearly did not belong in the suburban cul-de-sac. "Ms. Jensen?" The man introduced himself with a tight smile. "I'm Nathan Hartley, and I represent Ms. Mallory. We'd like to discuss your recent posts." Lena stiffened. "Represent? Are you threatening me?" Hartley's smile didn't falter, though his eyes sharpened with a calculated coldness. "Of course not. We simply want to resolve the matter peacefully. You've caused quite a stir, and Ms. Mallory feels that your actions have defamed her character." Defamed her character? Lena clenched her fists. She sprayed children with a hose. That's not defamation. That's assault. Hartley's gaze flickered, but he quickly recovered. "Perhaps it's best to take this conversation somewhere more private. We wouldn't want this matter to escalate further." Lena stared at him, holding his gaze. "I don't need your lawyerly intimidation tactics, Mr. Hartley. I'll fight this in public if I have to." He offered a strained laugh. "Very well, but I'd advise you to reconsider. Karen has resources, and she's not going to let this go unchallenged." Lena slammed the door in his face, heart pounding. She could feel the walls closing in. Karen wasn't backing down. She was escalating. Lena knew this was only the beginning. If she was going to win, she had to be even more strategic than she already had been. She wasn't going to let Karen destroy her sense of justice. The next morning, Lena received an email that made her blood run cold. It was from Karen's attorney, and the subject line read, "Cease and desist." Karen was officially suing Lena for defamation. Her attorney claimed that the video posted on social media, coupled with Lena's inflammatory remarks, had caused irreparable harm to Karen's reputation. Karen was seeking damages for emotional distress and slander. Lena stared at the screen, the words blurring in front of her. Karen had crossed the line. She wasn't just going to intimidate her into silence. She was using the full weight of her resources to crush her. But Lena wasn't afraid. She had been underestimated too many times in her life. This was no different. Lena's first instinct was to call Mr. Campos, but she wasn't sure how much more help he could be. He was a retired cop, and Karen's legal team was a whole different ballgame. Lena needed something bigger, something with more teeth. That's when she remembered Ruth. Ruth was the one who had posted about the wind chimes incident, the one who, like many of the other neighbors, had been worn down by Karen's relentless HOA rule enforcement. Ruth had lived in the neighborhood for decades and was known for her quick wit and sharp tongue. If anyone had the information Lena needed, it was Ruth. The next day, Lena went straight to Ruth's house, a cozy, overgrown corner cottage at the end of the street. The soft, floral scent of lilies greeted Lena as she knocked on the front door. Ruth opened it with a grin, wearing her signature red apron and a wide-brimmed sun hat. "What's the trouble, girl?" Ruth asked, her voice full of curiosity. Lena explained everything from the video to the looming lawsuit, watching Ruth's eyes narrow as she absorbed the details. "Karen's got a lawyer," Ruth muttered. "Well, that's new. She used to bully us with nothing more than her HOA clipboard. Guess she's been saving for a rainy day." Lena nodded. "I need to know everything you've got on her, every little incident, her patterns, anything that can show she's been abusing her power." Ruth's eyes twinkled with mischief. "I've got stories, dear. Let me dig through my archives." Within an hour, Lena was sitting in Ruth's sunroom, surrounded by papers, old photographs, and handwritten notes. Ruth had kept meticulous records of every interaction with Karen over the years, threats of fines, petty complaints, and even a few close calls with the local authorities. "She's relentless," Ruth said as she shuffled through the papers. "Once she had the nerve to tell me I wasn't allowed to keep my mailboxes in my yard. Can you believe that? Told me I needed to rethink my personal choices. This one's my favorite," Ruth said with a smirk, handing Lena a yellowing flyer from a neighborhood meeting. "Karen once held a public hearing about whether the color of my house was too bold." Lena laughed, though the tension in her chest remained. Karen wasn't just a petty tyrant. She was a professional at using her influence and power to enforce conformity, to break people down. But the deeper Lena dug, the more evidence she uncovered that painted a disturbing picture. Karen had manipulated and humiliated neighbors for years, all in the name of her vision for the neighborhood. "This is gold," Lena said, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "If I can get this into the right hands, Karen's done." "You bet your sweet ass she is," Ruth said, leaning back in her chair. "But you'd better be ready. Karen's the type of person who doesn't lose gracefully." Lena nodded, a fire lighting inside her. She was ready. The battle was far from over, but the tide had already started to turn. It was time to finish what she had started, and Karen wouldn't know what hit her. Lena sat in the small, quiet courtroom, the weight of the situation pressing down on her chest like a vice. The courtroom was hushed, the air thick with tension. Karen sat across from her, her pristine suit making her look every bit the professional she thought she was. Her attorney, Nathan Hartley, was cool and collected as he reviewed his notes. They had prepared for this day, no doubt, but so had Lena. The trial had been in motion for weeks, with both sides exchanging statements and evidence. Karen's legal team had tried everything from intimidating witnesses to sending cease and desist letters, but Lena had fought back with the records Ruth had provided and the undeniable truth of what Karen had done. The viral video was still circulating, and the neighborhood was buzzing with anticipation. Lena's heart beat fast as the judge entered, signaling the start of the proceedings. Judge Daniels, a seasoned, no-nonsense woman, settled into her chair and cleared her throat. She had seen her fair share of neighborhood squabbles, but something about this case felt different. She had already reviewed the evidence, and it was clear that there was more at play here than a simple misunderstanding. Karen's lawyer stood first, smoothing his tie as he approached the podium. "Your Honor, we are here today because the defendant has crossed a line," he began, his voice smooth and controlled. "Lena Jensen has defamed Ms. Karen Mallory, spreading false and damaging information that has tarnished her reputation and caused her emotional distress. The video, while capturing an unfortunate incident, does not tell the full story." Lena clenched her fists, trying to control the rage that simmered within her. She knew this was coming. Karen would twist the truth, just like she always had. But the evidence was irrefutable. They couldn't change the fact that Karen had sprayed children with a hose for no reason other than her own need to dominate. The courtroom's eyes were on Lena now. She could feel the weight of them, the pressure of the moment, and for a brief second, she wanted to shrink back into the shadows. But then she thought of Milo, of the injustice he had endured, and the way Karen's actions had echoed through their lives. There was no turning back now. With a deep breath, Lena stood up, facing the judge. "Your Honor, what Karen Mallory did to those children was not just wrong. It was cruel," she began, her voice steady but firm. "I'm not here to defame anyone. I'm here because I couldn't stand by and let her treat people like this anymore. She abused her position in the HOA to control and manipulate everyone around her, and the incident with the hose was the breaking point. She paused, her eyes narrowing as she locked onto Karen. I'm sure Karen will tell you that. The children were trespassing, that she was protecting her property, but we all know the truth. She didn't care about the rules, she cared about power. She's used that power to terrorize this neighborhood for years, making people afraid to speak up. Well, I'm not afraid anymore, and I won't let her intimidate me into silence. Lena could feel her heart pounding in her chest, the adrenaline rushing through her veins. For a moment, the room was still. The silence hung in the air, and Lena wondered if anyone was truly listening, if they even cared. Then, the judge spoke, her voice calm but decisive. I've reviewed the evidence, and I've listened to both sides, Judge Daniels said. The question here isn't whether Ms. Mallory's actions were wrong. That is clear. The question is whether the defendant's actions qualify as defamation. Lena's breath caught in her throat. Was it really that simple? The entire case hung on whether she had gone too far by exposing Karen's cruelty. She glanced at Karen, whose lips were tightly pressed together in a thin line, her eyes gleaming with venom. Lena knew that Karen had everything to lose, but she also knew that Karen's arrogance, her belief that she was untouchable, had blinded her to the reality of what was happening. Lena stepped forward again, leaning slightly on the podium as she spoke. Your Honor, the only thing I did was expose the truth. The truth about how Karen Mallory treats the people around her, how she uses her position to harm others without a second thought. There's nothing defamatory about that. What I did was hold a mirror up to her actions. Karen's attorney stood to object, but the judge raised a hand, silencing him. The room fell into another stretch of heavy silence as the judge deliberated. Lena's heart raced as the minutes ticked by, the tension in the air suffocating. She couldn't help but think of Milo, his face as he was sprayed with that water, the way he'd looked at her with wide, confused eyes. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice, for her son, for every person Karen had ever hurt. And then, the judge spoke. I've come to a decision, Judge Daniels announced. This case will not continue in the direction it has been heading. Ms. Mallory, you have used your position and influence in a manner that is both inappropriate and harmful to the people around you. While the defendant's methods were unconventional, the truth of your actions cannot be denied. The lawsuit is dismissed. The courtroom erupted. Karen's attorney stood frozen, his face pale with shock. Karen, for the first time in as long as Lena had known her, was speechless. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Lena's chest swelled with a mixture of relief and triumph. She had done it. The system had worked. The truth had won. As the judge adjourned the session, Lena felt a shift in the room. People were starting to whisper, but this time it wasn't in hushed tones of fear. This time, it was in admiration. Ruth was waiting outside the courtroom, smiling proudly as Lena emerged. You did it, Ruth said, her voice full of awe. You brought her down. Lena couldn't help but smile, her heart soaring. We did it. And then, as if on cue, her phone buzzed. A new notification from the neighborhood Facebook group. The video of Karen's humiliating defeat had already gone viral. Again. The meme that accompanied it read, When you mess with the wrong mom, Weiss Sprinkler Karen. The justice had been served, and the crowd was loving every second of it. For what? The first time in a long time, Lena felt like she could finally breathe.